Hello, everyone. Happy Monday.
Hey.
We are the Hatch Homes Group. Thank you for joining us at our Monday market update. And today we are going to focus on new construction. It's a real hot topic in our industry at the moment, and we have a lot to say on it and hopefully provide some good information to you guys. I think the first thing that we want to talk about is what is causing this really high demand of new construction. So I'm just going to share a few graphs really quick. This is a graph of national year-over-year change in housing inventory. So you can see most of the United States is in the red for inventory change. Oregon is at 55.5. So when you think about supply and demand, you think, okay, well, there's low inventory for housing. That means that there's really high demand for new construction and builders to get building. Right? Like they need to catch up with this demand right here.
Yeah.
I
think it's interesting in that graph, people in Portland think, oh, prices are going crazy. And they sort of think that this is something that's happening in Oregon. But when you look at that chart, there's so many states that are having a worse problem with changes in inventory than we are. Except New York, when we're leaving New York and going.
I don't know what's happening in New York. It's very weird. But it's
I think that a lot of people fled New York and they probably had like second homes to flee to.
See the surrounding states of all or mostly have big year-over-year change. Like we have.
Yeah. So that's really eye-opening. And then I'm going to share just what we share every month when the market action report comes out. And, again, like we don't want to be a broken record on inventory, but it's just it is what we need to be talking about in this market because inventory affects so much.
So this is a new record low, 0.7 of a month.
Yep.
And the interesting things is that everything is up, like new listings are up, pending sales are up, closed sales are up 62% from last year. So although new listings are up 16%, the pendings and the closings are up. So that's why the inventory's gone down, because they've gone up more than the listings.
As simply that demand, the demand is really high.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a really important thing to talk about because we look at low inventory and then people can take that as there's nothing on the market. It's really just, it's being absorbed very quickly. Like, as John said, it's coming on, it's being taken away. So I think that's an important distinction to also help buyers realize that it's not that there's nothing on the market. It's just that you got to jump on it. So yeah.
Interesting too, when you think about across the board, not just real estate, the the supply and demand is really dictating our economy right now. And it's interesting to watch. And I think it's pretty normal, like coming out of a pandemic, the demand always increases. So it seems extreme, but it's because it fell so low. So, that's my theory.
So Michelle, you've had a really recent experience with the new construction market. So maybe you can give us just a snapshot into what it's like right now.
Yeah, the demand, like we said, is really high. And I think it's appealing for people to think of brand new spaces. So that inventory is also really low because the builders it's more expensive to build because the cost of materials have gone up. So the competition is still there. For example, there's some companies that have a wait list of maybe like 200 people, but they're only going to be releasing 19 or 20 homes. I got this offer accepted the other day and it was still highly competitive against multiple offers. There was a wait list. There wasn't a wait list. Sorry, there was an interest list. So there's like differences and little nuances that you want to think about when you're on a wait list versus a interest list, because interest list is basically first come, first serve, fair market, So we had to be right on it. You have to establish those relationships like with the builders. So you want to have a an agent that's on top of that, that has that relationship. So you're on their list to contact first. And then just like some other little, you know, nuances of like, maybe if you don't get the first pick, maybe there's another lot that you want. And if you don't want to restrict yourselves to just the one model, they often have little different floor plans. So you could, you know, have a backup kind of option just in case. But I think, you know, like I said, it's still very in high demand, and you want to get on top of that. And you know, you want to.
You're seeing bidding wars too, right? Like we used to like go to a new construction and you'd have a few to choose from. You'd pick that one. And like what happened to you was that like they're not even built yet. So like they're not even like studs, right? And so you're just you're having to like actually bid on like bidding war on a house that you've never seen.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like kind of getting your mindset around that too of, and you know, we'll talk about this later. Angela was going to talk about this, but like comparing the brand new to a rehabilitation, I think that, you know, readjusting, like if you think that you don't want to compete on something like that, then maybe readjusting your goals a little bit and looking at homes that are still new because they're only a few years old. We can look at that inventory, and you know, it's still going to be competitive, but you won't have to wait as long. Because you really need to expect to wait for your house to be built, and that could take 3 months. So,
Or longer.
or longer, yeah. And you know, like you also want to expect to make, builders want you to be in it, right? So you probably want to expect to release your earnest money after a certain amount of time. I think John, you were going to talk about a little bit more about the expectations there, because that's a big deal.
I think the hardest pill to swallow these days is that some builders are putting escalation clauses in where with the prices of materials going up, they're allowing the price to go up. So it's completely different to what it used to be. So with new construction, you've got different paperwork. Just about all the builders use their own paperwork, so you have to be careful with that. There are new construction liens, and until the property is finalized and has had an aging period, there are liens that subcontractors can issue on the builder, so have to have extra title insurance for that. And inspections, they're different inspections. They have walkthroughs, and most of the big builders do inspections and walkthroughs. We always recommend that an independent inspector inspects the home. I've had many instances where people feel comfortable with the process with new construction, and they don't have their own inspector. One memorable case is on a resale. We were buying a home. It had a huge crawl space, like over 6 foot deep. And it was the sellers were the original buyers that didn't have an inspection. There was no low point drain although it had passed the city inspections, there was no low point drain. It was a swimming pool. Underneath, it was like 6 foot of water. It was unbelievable.
I remember once too that you were selling one where the heating duct wasn't like like the actual grate was there, but the heating duct wasn't connected. And I remember I did a new construction home inspection not too long ago, and things that you just didn't notice, like they installed the bathroom lights slightly off.
The little details, like I had one last year where like they installed this brand new furnace and it was all supposed to be high efficiency, but it wouldn't turn on. So like you want to get your own inspector to check all those things, because the beauty of a new construction is if you get that home inspection through an independent inspector, you can do the punch list item, and with the builder will fix all those things, and it's not a crazy negotiation. It's like this is brand new, you want all these things, this punch list to be done. So it's important to be thorough with that too, because, you know, when you're rushing, builders and contractors, if you've ever had experiences with them, the little things sometimes get overlooked because they're rushing through it and they're messy and like there's a lot to go on, but it's a fun process that you shouldn't be scared of, but also like be prepared for.
Expect, yeah. And other options to consider, and Michelle touched on this a little bit, is looking for homes that are a little bit just a few years old. Those things come up. Rehab instead of construction. Now it would, you know, like still could take the same amount of time depending on what you're going to do. And contractors are busy too, just like builders are. But, you know, because we have the urban growth boundary and we have such tight like land use right now, getting an older home that has a bit more land like could be a really good option if you like don't want like a really small like postage stamp lot, you know. So a lot of people are like, well, you know, new construction, it's just like it's just all done for you, like wrapped it up in a bow and handed you this pretty new package. If I do a rehab, I'm there's gonna be a lot more work. Well, hire a designer. Get a designer on your vision and put a lot of the work on the designer, the contractor to be talking. Obviously it is a lot of work, but building a house is a lot of work too. I just had sold a new construction where my clients did a lot of upgrades, and it ended up, you know, even going through the builder, it ended up being kind of stressful because they were learning, oh, this upgrade, like even though the builder's just going to do it, it still means that they might have to change the wiring and this light fixture, and then that's going to add this expense, and it just like really added up.
With that, if I can just say quickly, I meant to say this before, like the price that is offered for new construction out on the market is the base price. So when you touch on the upgrades, every upgrade costs something extra. Like for instance, a big one is air conditioning. It's not included in that price. So you're going to have to pay for AC as an upgrade.
And it depends on the builder too, right? I sold a new construction last year where the only upgrades were, yeah, like AC and if you wanted to buy a refrigerator, but everything else was included. And then I sold another new construction where you needed to upgrade if you wanted grass in your backyard, if you wanted fence, like all these things were upgrades. So all these things that seemed really basic, like they should be included, were not included, and it really added on to the price. So thankfully, you know, my clients were pre-approved higher, but it's just things you really need to discover when you're going to dive into the new construction. So you can also buy land and be patient, or buy land. And if you have cash, that might be a good thing to do too. There are land loans, but cash would be nice because then you could just do the new construction loan on the actual land that you own. Because it's hard sometimes with the new construction loan because it takes time. New construction loans take time to close. And in a seller's market, you are going to have to find a seller that's okay with a really, really long close. And a lot of sellers might not be okay with that in this market. So consider buying the land first, maybe holding on to it, buying the land, and then getting a new construction loan. So
lenders don't have lending on land.
Yeah, so it's a special land loan. And so bottom line, be patient. You got to be patient in this market. You have to be patient with a builder. You have to be flexible, even if you're building or doing a rehab. Contractors are really busy. Patience is important. Patience and being flexible. And be prepared to release earnest money. Like that's another hard thing, but that's a part of the new construction process too. Releasing your earnest money up front. It's a leap of faith. But that's part of the process. And if you want any other information, if you want to talk the options through, you know, we're here for you.
Yeah, we are. We have experience and we can help you get your mind around it.
We have a special episode next week where I'm going to be broadcasting from England.
Yeah.
Yeah, borders are open. Be careful out there.
He's going to be in quarantine in England, so we'll get him on our Monday market update. All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, see you next week.